president of Fortune Franchise Corporation, and he's also the president of the FPC of New York City office. And Jeff, you want to take it away for us?
Sure thing. Thank you, Dylan, and thank you, everybody, for joining. Again, my name is Jeff Herzog. I am the Executive Vice President for Fortune Franchise Corporation, or as we're more commonly known, FFC. FFC actually is a franchise company that supports a family of more than 60 independently owned executive recruiting offices throughout the country. Our offices are known as FPC, which was formerly Fortune Personnel Consultants. Many of you may be familiar with our recruiters. Currently, we have about 180 recruiters around the country. Our offices specialize in the industrial and manufacturing sector, which, despite what you may have heard in the media, obviously there's a lot of noise out there, has remained very strong, and actually activity has been increasing significantly since 2011. And over the last year, it's actually been really strong. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the presentation. In addition to being part of the overall franchise organization, I also own and operate FPC of New York City. It serves as a model office, which gives us really good live insight into the day-to-day challenges that our owners face. And it allows us to beta test new technologies and techniques. For instance, right now we are looking into new customer relationship management and applicant tracking services. In my office, we'll do all of the front-end research and then beta test before we roll it out to the system. So it makes sure that our franchise owners are comfortable with their investment. I think it's important to mention that I am a recruiter day-to-day as well, because I'm speaking to you not so much as a salesperson for a franchise system, but someone who is hands-on in the recruiting business, and I am so passionate about the opportunities and benefits that this career and this endeavor provides. I've been in and around recruiting for now 16 years, since 1997, and I've actually seen it from many different perspectives. I actually started out in the business in 97 placing attorneys, both on the permanent and contract side, and then I got an opportunity to get a different view of the industry. Went to a startup company called Headhunter.net. We were subsequently purchased by CareerBuilder.com, and I worked for CareerBuilder then for the next 6 years in a couple of different ways. And so I got an opportunity to see internet recruiting grow up significantly, and I'll talk a little bit later about how that folds into my perspective on this industry, because I really do believe that is plateaued. So we're really glad that you decided to join us this morning and accepted our invitation to the webinar. This is, I think, our third or fourth one, and actually the attendance and the interest level has grown significantly. What we are doing by running this webinar and reaching out to you in many different ways is we're connecting with accomplished folks like you who may be considering alternatives. I don't know, you may want to find a new job in your industry, you may be changing careers, or I don't know, maybe even thinking about starting your own business or buying a franchise. Honestly, most people come to us for several different reasons. You potentially, especially after the last few years, tired of job insecurity, worrying about more layoffs or cutbacks, sick of corporate travel, don't want to have to relocate again, and sometimes, most importantly, you just don't get a chance to attend the activities outside of work that you like to because you're on the road, you're working late. You know, maybe your income is flattened over the last few years, and all in all, you'd really love to just have more control over your life. Honestly, whatever the reason is that you've decided to join us, we're grateful that you're here and want to spend a little bit of time learning about FPC. This is the first question I get all the time from people. Do you need recruiting experience to be in our business. And we actually represent a career option that you don't need previous experience to get into. In fact, many of our FPC owners hadn't even considered this option when they were in a career transition. To be specific, 85% of our owners, that's 85% of 65 owners, were not recruiters before starting their FPC office, and I think that's significant to understand. Before I go any further, I want to just kind of share with you what this is, what the presentation is going to include over the next 25 or so minutes. What is recruiting? I want to kind of define it a little bit. Then why recruiting? Why a franchise? After you've now decided that you want to be in recruiting, why would you choose a franchise? And then why FPC? Also, we'll talk a little bit about what it takes to be successful in our business, and then I'll take any questions that you may have at the end. But feel free on the right side to chat your questions. At the bottom of the control panel, you should see a chat pane where at any time you can feel free to ask me a question. But again, I'll probably take all the questions at the end, but it's great if they queue up while I'm talking. So again, let's start out. What is recruiting? And why would you, consider a career in recruiting? Well, first of all, executive recruiting, or sometimes known as search, is a well-respected professional consulting role that helps companies identify and retain top-quality management professionals. We're talking about direct hire permanent placements for key higher-level positions, as opposed to what many people think of as or call staffing, which is kind of more focused on the lower level jobs, administrative roles, entry-level roles. That's not what we're talking about. My favorite part of the job, and maybe sometimes I feel like I over-glorify this, but I truly love it, is the ability that I have to interact with senior-level executives at exciting companies. I place folks mostly in pharmaceutical, biotech, and medical device companies, and I work with these executives, CFOs, COOs, plant managers, and I work with them to help them to identify top quality talent. They invite me into headcount priority meetings, and most importantly, they rely on me as a valuable resource that helps them reach their goals. Just a quick example, a client of mine who was in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, was over in Europe on a business trip, and he got headcount approval to add a new director of finance. And he called me from Europe and said, hey, we don't have a job spec yet, but I absolutely need you to get on this right away. I'll be back in 4 days. So he's giving me a heads up how I can help him to reach his goals, and I have proven to be, since August of 2007, a reliable and valuable resource for him. We also obviously help candidates or people seeking a change in jobs to connect with opportunities that fit their career and financial goals, and are just quite frankly a good match for their professional abilities and personal qualities. And I was talking to somebody about this morning. I think something what we do, which is really exciting, is we help emerging companies or companies that may not have a brand name to identify top quality talent that they may not be able to do otherwise in some sort of an advertising type of environment. So just to move on, just to give you some quick background on the history of recruiting, it actually has its roots in management consulting. Started in the 1920s in the United States. Some of the first sort of quote-unquote executive search professionals were names that you may recognize: James McKinsey, Edwin Booz, Wardwell Howell, Lester Korn, Richard Ferry, Russell Reynolds. Obviously, some of them are prominent names in management consulting and in executive search. What happened was there was a conflict of interest, and Edwin Booz, for instance, was brought in on his first management consulting engagement, and his first recommendation was to hire somebody for a specific role, and they said, great, why don't you go find them for us? So hence the executive search business was born. But the conflict was, as a management consultant, and if you're going to be getting paid on recruiting candidates, then, you're going to suggest to go out and hire more candidates. So they had to separate the businesses. So they spun off executive search arms. Okay, and the real expansion in the business was after World War II in the 50s, but I do want to draw a comparison. The birth of what's called contingent search happened sometime later in the 50s, and many of you think of search as, the recruiter gets paid if and only if they place somebody. That's contingent search. Retained search is a company pays you up front and on an ongoing basis to find them the talent they need. Now at FPC we do a little bit of both. Thankfully, actually, my business over the last 2 years has been predominantly retainer, but that's something you build over time. So, we have people that only do contingent search. We have people who only do retained search. We have people who do both. So that's just sort of the history of it, and I think it's important. Just to give you some perspective of the size of the industry by numbers. According to last year's IBIS World Employment Report, executive recruiting is actually a $15 billion sector of the overall employment services sector. I mean, there are a few large firms like Korn Ferry and Russell Reynolds, but none of them actually dominate the market. Most of the industry is actually made up of smaller players. And I think that's important when you think about, the barriers to entry in a new business that you want to get into. So we defined recruiting a little bit, gave you some perspective. Now, why would you consider recruiting? Why have our 65 owners, why about a very good percentage of our 180 recruiters, why do they choose recruiting as the next step? Again, most of our recruiters were not recruiters either. I don't generally hire people who have recruiting experience. I hire people with corporate experience. Most importantly, it allows you to step into something that you can actually change your career, but without starting over from scratch. I mean, of course, there's almost always general business experience that can transfer from one career to the next, but with recruiting, you can actually leverage your specific industry knowledge and contacts. Most of our, again, I'm going to keep hitting home on this, most of our FPC owners had zero recruiting experience when they began with us, other than, interviewing and hiring people that when they were, in their previous life. But putting their industry experience to work gave them instant credibility. We just opened an office north of Chicago, and he's got a phenomenal corporate background, and he has instant credibility in the continuous improvement and supply chain arena. It really is giving him, and it gives any of our owners and recruiters a true head start in their new role. When I think of the benefits, I think one of the most compelling benefits of recruiting is that it just feels good. Honestly, what we do, it not only earns us a really good living, but it helps others to make a good living for themselves, for their families. They find the work that they're doing rewarding. And I get several emails. I just got an email from a guy I placed at a pharmaceutical contract manufacturer in Cleveland. It's just over 2 years ago. On his 2-year anniversary, he's just stopping to say thank you for finding him that opportunity. So it's a good business to be in. It feels good, and I think you're overall doing good. A couple of other things that I think are important. People, right? FPC owners, what are they doing? They're at the heart of every company's most valuable resource, right? Their people. We help companies to reach their goals. We assist candidates to achieve their professional aspirations. And as we call them full life cycle recruiters, meaning we do both deal with the clients, the client companies, and the candidates. We often serve as a matchmaker. We interact, as I mentioned earlier, with all levels of executive management. We partner with human resources, and we are included in major planning and growth discussions. Best of all, guys, and this is plain and simple, we are compensated for our results. The more we succeed, the more we earn. And despite the changes in the industry, that were obviously largely due to technology and the advent of the internet, the changes in the way we live and work have continued to create opportunity. I think the world for recruiters today is even that much better than this time 10 and 20 years ago. Having spent 7 or so years in internet recruiting for CareerBuilder.com, I got a chance to see firsthand that the value of recruiting websites that has significantly plateaued and, in my estimation, has made executive recruiters even more relevant, because our clients are not posting their jobs nearly as much as they used to, because just like the ad I just posted, I don't want to get 289 responses and have to go through all of them. So it makes us that much more relevant. They are streamlining the process, coming directly to us first, and I think that's really important. And this is coming from someone who used to sell, I remember the first deal I ever sold of Headhunter.net, and sold them something called job postings to a company called GTE, which is now part of Verizon, and they were amazed as to how you can actually email resumes to them. So that was, 13 years ago, 14 years ago. So things have changed significantly since then. I think from where I sit, for the better. Couple of interesting facts that you see on the screen. We, according to a report from the American Staffing Association, the ASA, recruiting and staffing continue to be leading indicators of economic growth. This really supports the reason that many of our offices had their best years ever in 2012 and have continued to be able to emerge from the recession. The industry projections are for continued steady growth in 2013 and beyond. And I want to tell you this because I just confirmed it right before we started the call, that May of this year, 2013, was the second best month in 5 years. It's been since the beginning of 2008 since we had as much production and activity as we did in May of this year. So I think that's really exciting. We're off to a great start, ahead of last year, year to date, so it's continuing to grow. According to another report from the Association of Executive Search Consultants, and this is an important change in our industry, 53% of executives that were surveyed said that they expected to change careers 7 times before they retire. This is way up from expectations of only 3 career changes in the 80s. This shift in the way we work and the way we build our careers, in my mind, just spells continued opportunity for us in the recruiting world. So what does it take? I mentioned that we're going to talk about what does it take to be successful. And there's a quote on the screen is one of the top recruiters in the industry who's actually generated more than $26 million in fees. It kind of struck us because specializing in their former industries has been a path to a successful career in recruiting for most of our owners. And in addition to specialization, there are a few other specific success factors that can be achieved with the right commitment. Hard work, clearly. There's no question about it. In the first couple of years, you do have to, put your nose to the grindstone. Diligent planning, and that's really thinking about your business and how am I going to plan for tomorrow. So when you walk in the morning, you know exactly what you're going to do. Somebody mentioned a quote that I really liked the other day, and I don't remember who it's by, but if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And that's precisely the way we think. Staying current with trends in your industry and discipline. I stay very current within pharmaceutical, biotech, and med device regarding finance and accounting, supply chain. It's really important to be well educated, but the nice part is, again, if you're placing people in the industry that you currently work in, then you're already way ahead of the game. So we talked a little bit about what is recruiting, why recruiting, what it takes to succeed. Now let's talk a little bit about why a franchise. I mean, you have options, honestly. You can go out and be a recruiter and work for someone else. You can start your own independent recruiting office. But honestly, if your goal is to really take control of your career in a way that builds on your past experience and significantly reduces your risk, you should consider an FPC franchise. I mean, we like to say that franchising is owning your own business without being alone. Now, what do we provide? You know, why would you do it? I mean, first and foremost, training and support. And I think, you know, in a franchise operation, the best sales tool for us is what's called validation. And that is that our franchise owners, our current owners, speak highly about us. And if you ask any of our owners about the training and support that we provide here at corporate, they will give you nothing but glowing reviews. We have a proven methodology. You know, this isn't like, you know, first put the ham on, then put the cheese, then toast the bread. That's not what I'm talking about. This is, if you go at it on your own, there are a lot of gray areas. And we take our process and our proven methodology and we impart it on you in the initial training and then ongoing until you decide that you don't want to be doing this business anymore. We speak to some of our owners today more than we've ever spoken to them at the beginning. The most successful owners in our system call us every single day. We help them, you know, with how to, you know, grow their business, how to close certain deals when, you know, there are interesting stories, and we've got a phenomenal brain trust here locally of many, many years of experience in the recruiting business that is here for your support. Brand recognition, just to give you an example, I happened to meet at a social event somebody the other day who was the Director of Human Resources for a $10 billion pump and valve manufacturer here in New York. And when I told her that I'm, you know, partner in FPC and National or Fortune Franchise Corporation, she said, "Oh, I love FPC. We work with Joe in Troy, and we work with Cindy down in Pinehurst." So it gives you some idea. It's really nice when we have that type of brand recognition. We're also very well respected in the industry. Camaraderie, just knowing and having your fellow owners and recruiters as part of a much bigger system is very important. We have a national conference every year. This year it's at the Ritz in San Juan. Last year it was at the Lowe's in New Orleans. We move around and we get a chance to rub elbows and speak and talk about different challenges. And I'll talk a little bit more about the exchange system in a little while. We also give you buying power. You have a much larger group of people purchasing products that often cost 10 times as much as what we're able to get it for. And this is interesting because we're a bit different. You know, we don't tell you exactly how you have to set up your office. We give you suggestions, but you can create your own environment exactly the way you want it to lay out and envision it within reason. And honestly, unlimited earning potential. It's a great part of the franchise. So the exchange system, just so you know, is how our owners interact with each other. One may have a job that they're working on. Another owner or recruiter may have a candidate that they're working with. And we make a match together, and there's a certain level of trust between those owners because we're all part of the same franchise system. And we're able to fill significantly more jobs because of the franchise exchange system. So just to give you some statistics for franchises, the HIS Global Insight Report, which was actually prepared for the IFA, or the International Franchise Association, stated that in 2013, growth in the franchise industry is going to continue to outpace growth in other business sectors. The Franchise Business Outlook 2013 actually foresees franchise industry GDP growth of 4.1%, following a GDP increase of 4.3% in 2012. Survey also revealed that the franchise sector is creating more jobs than other sectors. In 2013, franchise-created jobs are expected to increase 2%, which is a few percentage points over other sectors. This has been a consistent factor over a number of years, including during the recession. The report concluded that investing in a franchise is still a great option for aspiring entrepreneurs and non-entrepreneurs alike. And I think that's important to note, that a lot of our franchise owners were non-entrepreneurs. They never thought of themselves as entrepreneurs, but they were curious and they wanted to learn about how they were able to leverage the experience that they have into their own business. So moving right along, why an executive recruiting franchise? And we're coming to the tail end, so definitely feel free to start putting your questions together. Why an executive recruiting franchise? And why it makes sense today. According to a recent Wall Street Journal story, the business-to-business or business services franchise sector, in which recruiting obviously falls, is the fastest growing. This assertion is supported by the Franchise Business Economic Outlook report. It states that the franchise business services sector, keep that in mind, franchise services, business services will realize 3.9% unit growth compared with 1.4% unit growth for franchises overall. Also, franchise fees, the entry fee to an executive recruiting franchise is very low in comparison to other options. And it's also a very uncrowded marketplace. And FPC is actually a very well-known member of that space. So give you a brief overview of exactly what is FPC, originally known as Fortune Personnel Consultants, leading national executive search firm, a search network, comprised of more than 60 independently owned and operated offices. Rudy Schott is recognized as a pioneer and innovator in the executive recruiting industry. He founded it in 1959 in New York and actually started franchising in 1973, which means we're celebrating our 40th anniversary this year. We continue to follow Rudy's high standards and code of ethics, integrity, trust, and dependability. Today, the vision of our CEO, Ron Herzog, honors the past and has established a sound path for the future, which includes, and I think this is important, he truly embraces technology and is up to date on the latest marketing and branding techniques for our industry, and that's where he really makes a big difference and helps out the broader system. We've given serious strategic thought to what it means to be the right size. We've planned our growth to become large enough to provide nationwide impact, yet we still remain small enough to be personal, flexible, and responsive to our family of recruiting offices. We're not about selling franchises, but we're about supporting the success of our owners. Another important point as we speak about family, FPC has always been a family-operated company, first by 2 generations of the Schott family, and currently by my father and I, 2 generations of the Herzog family. Here's another point important to note. More than 60% of our current FPC offices, so over half of our offices, have had or currently have more than 1 family member working in the business. The FPC network is operated with input and guidance from a peer board of FPC owners, and our core commitment is connecting with the right owners and supporting them for everyone's long-term success. Now, why us? Just a couple of quick points. What sets us apart from the competition is the quality of the owners we attract, and some of the reasons that they chose us were national brands. We have an amazing team of trainers and support staff in the national office who understand recruiting, not just franchising. Each of our trainers has worked, and by the way, it's separate. I mean, we have the training staff, and then we have the franchise folks who focus on franchise development. Each of our trainers has worked a recruiting desk prior to coming to FPC, and most actually have been with FPC for many years and have long-term relationships with the owners. We've developed a proven process for successful recruiting and operating your business. And the owners tell us that the main reason for their success is the initial and ongoing support from the national office. The initial owner training is actually a 2-week program with 6 months of intense follow-up, which will help you to jumpstart your business. The ongoing training is incredibly important for both owners and recruiters they hire, as well as day-to-day business support for the life of the office. Owners call us even after 20 years. The Vine is our intranet that we just spent a lot of money to upgrade, and we're actually launching in the next couple of weeks. It helps build initial revenue for new offices to connect and continues to help them to succeed for their corporate clients and jobs. I mentioned our National Owner Conference earlier. It's a great event every year. We've committed to providing the latest in web technology for both connecting and promoting FPC offices, as well as generating leads for them. Startup costs for an FPC office are very reasonable, and we can help you with financing options. And most of all, long-term, and our owners will tell you this, our network is very successful. A couple of our quick stats: over $90 million in salaries placed in the workforce last year. It's nice to know that you have this large presence and network of recruiters behind you from day one. Over 1,000 placements, and the average salaries of candidates we place is over $100,000. You get the clout that more than 1,000 FPC network placements per year provides, and we give you the stats that help you to get job orders and make placements. Lastly, what do FPC owners have in common? They are men and women. They join us after successful careers with top organizations, including many Fortune 500 companies like General Motors, Disney, GE, which, guess what? Then they add those companies to the FPC client roster, because that's your first call, is to focus on going to people you know. This has really contributed to our stellar reputation among a lot of the biggest and best companies in the world. Most of our franchisees were actually mid to senior level managers who came from a variety of industries and have, they have functional roles like engineers, supply chain professionals, finance executives. Many of our successful owners, many of our most successful owners join us because they want to have a proven system to follow rather than reinvent the wheel. A number of the owners have been joined in business by their spouses, their adult children. This can potentially provide a retirement plan or a great opportunity for transition. Most of all, they're looking for stability, control, and work-life balance. Lifestyle is a big reason that owners join us, become successful. Becoming successful does take work, but they still have time with their families, and they get a chance to enjoy life. That's one of the biggest drivers today, is people can make as much money as they want and still go out and enjoy themselves, whether it's playing golf or going to their kids' events, or no matter what it is you like to do, we get a lot of an opportunity to do it because we work very, very reasonable hours. Lastly, what does it take to start and succeed? You must be personally productive. You have to hire people to scale the business. I'm passionate about this too. You always have to be learning. You have to have a commitment to excellence, and excellence as it relates to the companies you work with as well as the candidates you represent. Lastly, have a deep desire to do something good for you, your family, and others, and be personally and professionally successful. So, sorry about that. I'm on 45th Street. I don't know if you heard the horn in the background, but I now want to take some of your questions and see. Here we are. Let me just open this question pane and see what questions we have. Okay, here we go. This is a good question. Is there a defined territory? The answer is actually, you get a territory for one reason and one reason alone. If we put you in a territory, that we will not open another office in that territory, and it's mostly just for recruiting and hiring your own employees. We can do business all over the country and, quite frankly, all over the world. One of my recruiters who works for me just placed a controller in Switzerland, which was very nice. Here's another question. Can I move my franchise to another location? Absolutely. We have people who retire, or they want to move south, and they take their friend. We just had one office move from Providence, Rhode Island, down to the Sandhills, North Carolina. So absolutely, you can take your franchise with you. That's actually a very good question. Do you provide us with leads? As a matter of fact, we do. When you're here for training, we jumpstart your business. We provide you with a significant amount of information, candidates, resumes, as well as clients and contacts. How do you market the franchise? That's another great question. And we actually have a director of national advertising who spends 100% of her time focused on whether it's social media, whether it's pay-per-click advertising, industry advertising. For our new office that we just opened, she called the local Chamber of Commerce to get them involved there. We have a dedicated national account fund that she manages and spends money wisely. Can you explain the exchange program? Yeah, actually, this is, I could sum it up very easily. I explained it a little bit earlier. Maybe I answered this question already, but you know what? Let me give you an example. I place mostly supply chain and finance and accounting folks, but a good client of mine in the pharmaceutical world needed help. They asked me for a director of technical services in a transdermal pharmaceutical plant up in New England. And not something that I'm very good at doing. That's not really my specialty. But I know that an owner of ours down in our Atlanta office places quality, validation, and technical services folks in pharmaceutical companies. So I called him. We got on a conference call with the site general manager. And 6 weeks later, we were able to send an invoice, and we were splitting the fee. So that's exactly how the exchange program works. That's interdisciplinary. We have other exchanges that they work within. So if somebody else there are two recruiters who place supply chain professionals, they may work together. One recruiter has the client, one recruiter has the candidate. We have one more question. Hold on one second. Do you help in the hiring process to hire recruiters? Absolutely. As a matter of fact, many of our owners actually CC one of our trainers on postings that we have for recruiters so they can help them to identify the type of talent. We're all very busy, and our trainers will help you to review resumes, do initial screening. We then do a phone simulation. We can help you at any level that you would like assistance in the hiring process. We know how critical it is to the growth of your business, and we're very, very involved. There have been several times where we've suggested against hiring people, and several times where we've suggested, you know, that an office moves forward to hire people. So, very good question. Anything else? Let me just open this back up and see if there's anything. Oh, can I work from home? That was the last question. No, actually, unfortunately, what we focus on, we're not this type of, you know, work from home, work from your basement in your pajamas type of a business. We our franchise agreement asks you to asks you to open an office, or requires that you open an office, and we also want you to hire a few people, because that has been the most successful way to run an executive search business. So that is all I see now. I hope nobody else has any other questions, but my contact information is at the bottom. You can see right there. I think we're just about on time. Let me just check the chat pane one more time, see if I'm missing anything. But I think we're okay. Please don't hesitate to call me. I am more than happy to have an ongoing conversation with you one-on-one about the franchise opportunity, or anything else that you'd like to talk about, you know, regarding our business. So please feel free to email me or call me. Again, I want to thank you all for attending the webinar today. I hope you have a great July 4th holiday and a good rest of the summer, and I look forward to getting an opportunity to talk to all of you going forward. Thank you.